Hi everyone, welcome back to Stocks All Day with Dr. O'Day. Today what I'm going to be talking about is how I use the relative strength indicator, or the RSI. Now, this isn't an indicator that I use a lot in my trading, but I have actually begun to use it slightly more here recently, and I'm still evaluating exactly how well it's going to work with my particular trading strategy. But I actually use it as a way to buy back into a stock after I have stopped out on it. So after I've hit my stop loss on a particular stock, this is a little way that I tend to kind of think about, should I buy back into that particular stock? And I'm really excited to share with you exactly how I make that decision. So as always, please make sure to support the channel by hitting like and subscribe, and also please keep in mind that this is just how I use the RSI. This is not meant to be investment advice, and any decisions that you make are your own, and I'm not liable for any of those decisions. So with that, I'm excited to share with you how I use the relative strength index. So as always, I'm going to start with just kind of graph of the particular price of the stock. I'm typically operating on the 1-day trading chart. You could use it on the 4-day, the 1 hour, so on and so forth. But again, this is the 1-day chart. And so right here, we just have graphed out the price of the stock. So just candlestick patterns there. And what I'm going to go ahead and do is add in the relative strength index. The relative strength index, that is right here, so you can just type that in. And as I mentioned in my MACD strategy trading video, which I'm going to link below, there are a lot of other kind of strategies that people have published, and what they've done is they've actually used the Pine editor here to actually create scripts that will do various things. And I've written into some of those scripts as well. Again, I'm not going to actually show you my Pine editing scripts because I've taken a lot of stuff from other people who have copyrights on it. And so unfortunately I can't share that just because of that. So the relative strength index, let's go ahead and add that into my chart, and it's going to create a new chart down here below. Now, by default, it's giving me an RSI of 14 period RSI, and that's what a lot of people use. The way that people use this RSI indicator, and there's a few different ways that you can use it. It's basically telling you the strength, and are people interested in this stock right now is kind of what that's asking. And so people typically put the cutoffs of the RSI at 30 and 70, and you can see that's where the purple kind of shaded area is. And when the RSI dips below 30, then that's typically an indicator that the stock is oversold. And, people have, a lot of times this is happening when people are panic selling stocks, and oftentimes it corrects a little bit too far, and so it gets oversold, and that's, typically people use that as a buy signal. Now, there are varying ways that people use this. A lot of people, once it goes oversold, they wait for some kind of indicator that the trend is going to reverse, because it could continue down and people could stay uninterested in that particular trend. And you see here, actually, there's, the RSI does not cross over very often into the 30, at least on the 14 period on the daily chart. We do see that if we jump back far enough, we did see that it crossed below right here. And again, if you were to buy in right here, it continued further down. And so that's why a lot of people like to wait for kind of a confirmation that that thing is going to change and that the trend has changed. And that's, we look for candles like this nice big green candle. A lot of people will look for kind of a bullish engulfing candle that starts below the previous one and finishes above the previous one. That's called a bullish engulfing candle, and that's kind of a fairly strong trend reversal. I don't do too much with candlestick patterns, but a lot of people do trade candlestick patterns pretty reliably. I do like bullish engulfing candles as a kind of trend change. So what this would do is a lot of, some people might say that you buy here. Some people might say that you wait for this green candle and then you buy. So there's a variety of ways that you could use the RSI. And again, a lot of people just stick with the default of 14 period RSI. Now, actually, what I have recently kind of shifted to is actually using the 10 period RSI. So I'm going to go ahead and change this to the 10 period. So you're going to see that there's going to be a few more signals on the 10 period RSI. So right here we see a signal where we hadn't previously on the 14-day, but it's working the same. If it drops below 30, that's your buy indicator. If it goes above 70, that's your kind of sell indicator here. And I had recently watched a video. I'll actually link to this video. It's not my video, but the trader had kind of talked about this 10 period RSI, and it was interesting how the trader used it. They basically said, okay, once it drops below 30, then you buy at the open of the next day. So that would be right here, or actually it'd be right there. You buy at the open of the next day. Then you hold until the stock, the RSI, crosses above 40. So this trader was saying, okay, so I'm going to buy here, and then I'm going to hold until it crosses 40, and then I'm going to sell it open of the following day. And so you aren't making that much money on this particular strategy. But the way that I use this, I use it a little bit differently than this particular trader had been using it. And again, you can see his strategy. It's a pretty high win rate on that strategy, but you're not making very much most of the time. The way that I use this, and I'll show you just a recent trade of mine, and this is fairly new for me. So what happened was I had purchased JD, and I had purchased JD right about here. I had made a decision to buy it. And unfortunately, the stock dropped quite a bit. I ended up stopping out right here around $80.79. That was this day. So I stopped out here. Well, I brought in this other trader's strategy, this 10 period RSI strategy, as a way to potentially buy back in. So unfortunately, things didn't go so well on that trade, but I was like, well, I want to keep watching this because there was a reason that I bought JD in the first place. I think that soon the trend is going to reverse. I was using the MACD signal that I talked about in my other video, so on and so forth. And so I started watching that stock pretty closely, and I saw that the 10 period RSI did indeed cross below 30. And that happened right here on March 24th. And so according to this strategy, once that happens, you buy at open of the following day, which was right here. So I sold, my stop loss was around $80.80. I bought back in right here at 76.61. That was where I bought back in, was at open of the next day. So I followed this strategy, and then according to this strategy, once it gets back over 40, which happened right on this day, we finally got above 40, you then sell at open of the following period. Now, again, I don't know if I've fully believe in that other trader's strategy. It is a very interesting strategy and it would have worked out fine here. But I ended up holding because there was a reason that I liked this area to buy here initially, and there was a reason that I chose this target profit. And so for me, I actually am kind of going away from this. I am using the 10 period RSI as a way to potentially buy back into the stock. But here I'm now looking to kind of capitalize on that profit. But actually by doing this, I completely made up all 5%. I'm actually up like 12% on this secondary trade. So overall, I'm up about 7% just by kind of combining this 10 period RSI with my other trading strategy as a way to potentially get back into some trades. But there's varying ways that you could use the RSI as well. Now, in terms of the stuff that I have coded into my own Pine editor, so let's actually go ahead and find a stock where we can see what I've coded in here to the Pine editor. So first off, actually, while I'm kind of talking about this, you might be wondering what this X 10% is. What that is it's I don't use this very much. It's just purely based on interest. I'm kind of deciding if I want to use this more. But I've found, so what it's doing is it's saying from the high of the previous day, did the stock drop 10%? And what I've noticed over kind of watching some stocks, this is a new strategy for me. I'm just kind of testing it out. I'm just watching how things work. What I've noticed is that 10% drops for most stocks are a fairly aggressive correction. Typically, it's to some bad news or something like that that just came out about the stock, and people kind of panic sell. And what I've found is that actually, a lot of times the stock reverses after that. And so that's what that X is that you're seeing there. But I'm going to come just to my watch list and see if we can get kind of some other, oh, from my RSI signals here. So I have it telling me when it goes overbought and then crosses back below 70. I also have it telling me when a particular stock is oversold. So when that particular stock is oversold and then crosses back above. And so that's how I'm using the RSI as a way to potentially find ways to re-enter trades that actually failed. And so far it's been fairly successful. Again, I showed you the JD strategy, the way that I had implemented that with JD. But again, this is not one that I use as a lot of people use this as an initial trade entry strategy. For me, it's if I've exited out of a trade, is there a potential rebuy into that? And so with that, I hope you learned something here. I hope you have a great rest of your day. And as always, make sure hit that like and subscribe and let me know if you have any other questions.